Hi there. I am Charlotte Milne, and welcome to the Trailgirlcharlotte podcast. Today, I have my very first guest. Her name is Nicky, and we are going to be talking about training and training around the woman's monthly cycle. Hi, Nicky. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you, Charlotte. Thanks for having me.
That's
Cool.
right.
Excited to talk about this.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this as well. And we trained towards Taupo 50K last year with training around your cycle, and we had some great results, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
fun. Yeah, it was awesome.
lots of learning, and yeah, it was awesome. So today I thought that we would just sort of rewind the clock back a bit to like what was the kind of reason that you came to me with this idea of training around your monthly cycle? Like, what was sort of happening in your life and your training and your running? Can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, yeah, cool. So I, as I've shared with you, have always been super ruled by my hormones, which I didn't like. I always knew, like, oh, this is a drag, and it wasn't something that was really highlighted until after I'd had my boys.
Mm-hmm.
That it was like, oh my god, totally hormonally imbalanced, and then when I started getting some treatment for that with acupuncture and stuff, I realized. I've been hormonally imbalanced my whole life.
Yeah.
um, and that just made, life, pretty tough, but it was, fine. And when you're younger and you just sort of box on and, it was more about sort of, like just crampy and feeling a bit yuck and all the rest of it. But then as I got older, because I'm 48, 49 this year. So heading into that sort of perimenopausal phase, although I'm not actually officially there. But yeah, symptoms started becoming a lot worse, or just new discovery of new symptoms, like
Mm-hmm.
sort of achy body and having trouble sleeping and a little bit of anxiety and all of that stuff. But because I'm super regular, I was always like, okay, cool, it's just the hormones, it's okay, fine, fine,
Mm-hmm.
fine. And so then I started to, as my kids have gotten older and you get a little bit more free time for yourself, and I sort of started running, and I was like, this is awesome, this is going to make me feel better, this is going to be good for me, this will hopefully help with hormones. And so just trying to do something that would, be a positive influence on the body, and it was, and super enjoyed it. And then it was just
Mm-hmm.
like, what's going on here? Like there was always just this something, like this roadblock. And it just felt to me like, and at the time I was training with Chris, so it was before you and I were training together. And it was just like this roadblock, and I was just never able to get past this point, like it was just always, I would run up against a wall. And I knew that it was always, like I could go out and do a run, like on the Wednesday, say, and have a great run and feel super strong and feel real good, and do that exact same run a week later and be like,
Mm-hmm.
this sucks. Hate it. And every was just awful and gross. And I knew that it was like, okay, this has got to do with my cycle. This has to be cyclical. And so then I got a bit cross because I was like, come on, hormones, you're not going to take the thing that I'm trying to do that makes me feel good
Sure. Yeah.
from me, like it's like, you're not going to, you've been pretty disruptive my whole life. I'm not going to let you have this either. So, and then it was just luck stumbling across that podcast with Mindy Pelz that introduced that whole concept of, the fasting and the eating and all the rest of it. And through that podcast, she talked about just that whole cycle and how we have to respect our body through that cycle. And that's when I went into a little bit more deep diving about, okay, well, let's see how that all links up with exercise and what, um, and how we can, use that, how I can use that to make my training experience more positive. Not that it was negative, but just
Mm-hmm.
like have it going in a forward, in a trajectory that was improving, rather than just good, douche, douche. This is what it was kind of what I felt like, up until that point. So once we started doing that, once you and I connected and started doing that training, I think definitely, well, it certainly made a massive difference to me, and gone were the days of going out on those runs where I hated them because I wasn't running in those times. We started to understand the cycle. So I don't know whether you want to start talking about that or the phases or whatever, but because we were aligning the training and the intensity of the training and the type of training that we were doing with my cycle, it all just seemed to feel good.
Yeah, for sure. And so your history of running and training, like what did that look like? Like how long have you been running for?
Yeah, no, not that long, because it was always something like my brothers and my dad have always run, and running was always something that I was like, running sucks. I don't want to run. I hate running. And then I actually, and because I was always just like road running, like, ugh. But then I started running on the trails, and I was like, oh, this is a bit of me. Like, this is just for me, that's just feels like a spiritual exchange for me, running in the bush. And at the time I was living on the other side of the Honua, so I was doing a lot of running with a friend in there, and I was just like, oh my God, I can actually run, I actually enjoy it. And so that would have been about it was before COVID. Everything we got pre-COVID and after COVID. That's the timeline. It was before that. It was just probably about maybe 6 months, 8 months before that, because then it was in COVID that I was thankfully had established that habit, and I was doing a lot of running. Our driveway at the time was like 1.5 k's of bush, so I was doing laps of that during COVID. So yeah, not I didn't have a massive history, and I think that Riverhead. I'm just trying to think when that Riverhead.
I think that was in 2021. That Riverhead. Yeah. It is a bit of a blur.
That's when I met you.
Yeah, it is a bit of a blur. Like 2021 and 2022, like seemed like just one big year, a bit.
Yeah.
And so, I suppose that's when we met at Riverhead, and I think it was about July at Riverhead Rampage.
Yeah.
And that was like one of your first sort of events, right?
That was my first trail event. Yeah.
And then we kind of connected, and then you like trained, you connected, trained with Chris, and then sort of realized that you're hitting these sort of roadblocks, as you just talked about, in your training. And I suppose you're probably finding that you were having rest weeks probably when you were feeling good, and then having sort of hard weeks when you're feeling terrible. Is that kind of right as well?
Yeah, well, it would probably, if I went back and looked at it, probably would, map out like that. And because Chris trained me for the Taupo 20, what is it, 24, 21, 24,
yes,
something like that.
24, yeah.
That one, the first distance, the baby distance, yeah. And that was good. And I think, but yeah, there were definitely lots of runs in that, in the lead up to that, where like I said before, like, I'd go do that one run, that run on a Wednesday, and a week later go and do the same run and just have a totally different experience with it. Yeah. So, and then it was always, and even though I knew it was to do with my cycle, I just didn't really know what to do about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
And I never even thought I just sort of was like, oh, well, there's just another thing that my hormones are, going to be annoying about. And so then, like I say, it was just that chance, just stumbling across that podcast where it was just like lights on, aha moment, and it all made heaps of sense.
The whole sort of women's health is, is a bit of it's a topic that is kind of coming to light a bit more. So I think, that whole mentality of like, oh, I'll just blame it on my hormones. This is normal to feel shit coming into my period, and this is all normal. And then now, you know, there's a lot more information, or there's the emerging information. People probably thinks like Mindy Pelz, that sort of talking about it, you know, you talk about it, becomes normalized, and you start asking those questions. Is this normal, or do I have to put up with this, or how can I sort of manage it better so that I get what I like want to do? Okay, for you it's like running, and for, you know, like me it's running, but, you know, but also you know, not be a grumpy, you know, bitchy kind of person, and, you know, like in at home and feeling like terrible, right? Because that's where it comes out, right? You know, he comes out at home a bit more than
100%. Yeah, your worst person, the worst version of you is with the people you spend most of the time with, But also and that's a good, like, you raise a really good point, because that was for me as well, like being just a real short, grumpy mum, super grumpy wife. And also the other thing that I was really struggling with is because of the work that I do, and predominantly is writing, and I just couldn't, like, just the fug in the head is just like. So, you know, I sort of felt like 2 weeks every month I was just like wading through mud, like in my head, you know, like physically out on the roads, and then mentally through my work, and then emotionally with my family. Like, real fun time, real fun time.
yeah,
And then you
no,
go to month, well, that's 50% of your life. It's like, that's a lot of life. It's a lot of life. Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Mm.
Yes, and like you've mentioned, like listening to that
Oh, the
podcast.
diary of Mindy Pelz. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mindy Pelz with the diary of CEO that she was talking to Steven Bartlett. Yeah,
yeah,
on his
yeah, that was a
podcast,
really
which was really.
it was a really good podcast, and it made a lot of sense, and it sort of clicked that, you know, the understanding of like the hormones and what they're doing, and then how that sort of like is good to do certain things in your life, you know, such as, you know, training and all that kind of thing. It just made sense to like kind of work with your hormones and see what would happen. And
Yeah.
you know, so
And then there was that other cool podcast that I think we both listened to as well, with that UFC fighter, which was where
yes,
she really went into the nuts and bolts about training, and you know, what sort of exercises or how you should be training according to where you are in your cycle, that was super fascinating as well, I thought. And then again, which is, you know, those principles are what we applied, and it seemed to work. Yeah.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
suppose like, you know, my history with like my monthly cycle is that I've had like sort of really bad like PMS and like moody and all that kind of stuff at certain points of my like cycle. And I suppose when you kind of came along with your sort of your story, and then like listening to those podcasts, it made a lot of sense that like, oh, maybe, you know, maybe I've been pushing or pushing with the training at wrong times in my cycle, and then as a result like feeling even more terrible, and then you know, it's just coming more intuitive with your body, right? Like, you know, you have like this information, and then you can apply to your body, and then it kind of makes sense, and you sort of start working with your hormones, and and it kind of like sort of like that bad sort of PMS kind of goes away, or it becomes manageable, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, I just was literally all those symptoms and all my issues just literally disappeared, which was a sweet relief. And then, you know, and then the sort of the acid test for me was over Christmas, with not being super disciplined on anything or focusing anything, you know, about it, and just seeing all of that stuff sort of creep back a little bit, you know, and particularly in my last cycle, I had, you know, full on body aches and just felt really crappy, and just was like, ugh. Yeah. So, good to be now consciously back into some good training and a good training phase, and so and getting ready for Taupo 70.
Woohoo, woohoo. Yeah, with a
Yeah.
much longer lead in. And I think that's really, you know, that, like you said, it's the acid test, like, you know, stopping it or sort of like adjusting it, and then seeing what happens. Because sometimes, quite often, like if we try something new or take something out, or, we feel better, right? And then it can sometimes actually like plateau, if
Yeah.
we sort of, and then sometimes it actually legit does work for us. And it seemed like it legit actually worked for you, right? It's working for you,
Yeah. Legit.
sort of,
Yeah.
training, and
Yeah.
even like
Yeah.
living. It sounds like it's living as well. Living around your cycle,
Yeah.
like if you not even training high out, do you still feel like that sort of fasting and eating and around your cycle is still beneficial?
For me, I think it's all the pieces for sure. Like, and I
Mhm.
just think, and I'm probably, I know that I know just because of talking to my girlfriends around me, that I'm probably in the, in the in the category of super sensitive hormone. I'm also just somebody who yeah, it's nice to be in touch with your body, but I just sometimes I'm like just a little bit too much in touch with the body. I mean, I wouldn't mind being a little less in touch, because sometimes I feel like it's just like, oh, just, but anyway, it is what it is, and I am who I am. So I
Mhm.
definitely am in that group of women, that I think, for me, because I am so sensitive and, hormonally sensitive, that I think for me the three pieces are critical. Um, the fasting and the eating and the training pieces together.
Mhm.
But like I said to you, I'm not vigilant. I'm not counting macros. I'm just like, whatever. I can't be bothered with that stress, or I just that just feels counter to me. But I have enough of an understanding to know that, oh, yeah, that's good. And also, like you say, like training, you need to be, I need to eat what my body's telling me I need to eat as well. So I do a lot of that because I do love my food. Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
So yeah,
It's really good to
yeah,
hear,
for sure.
because it's like, there's, as much as like I'm really passionate about like women's health and like, doing the best, hang on. I'm really passionate about women's health and making sure that like, I'm trying to help my hormones and things like that. But then there's like this
Mm,
side that, we're athletes, and we exert a lot
mm,
of, energy and
mm,
output, and so I think like being
mm.
too rigid is like, it can be like just, can lead to dysfunctional eating. It can be like you're not actually
Yeah,
getting enough and you like lose that
yeah,
intuitiveness. So as much as it like,
yeah,
first of all, makes you become more intuitive, then if you are too rigid, then you actually kind of go
yeah,
too far and you're like, nah, I can't eat carbs today because I'm meant to be like eating like
yeah,
more keto,
yeah,
and things like that. And
yeah,
so that's really good to hear. I think it's a really important aspect of this. If you're a runner or an athlete, that food is a friend, and like, to fuel your training.
yeah,
It's not just food; it's fuel. And
yeah,
and I suppose like we're going to sort of focus more on the training to your cycle, because I think that
yeah,
a lot of women can benefit from training around their cycle without doing the two other aspects of the fasting and the eating, because that won't
yeah,
work for
exactly. And
everyone.
if they're training, yeah, if they're training anyway, what's the harm in training on your cycle? You know what I mean? Like, it's not anything that they have to do differently, other than, yeah, just I guess for some women, that, I mean, well, before I say that, maybe do you want to talk about the phases a little bit? Because I was just going to say, for some women, that whole nurture phase might be a little bit hard. If you're used to just going training, 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 the adjustment might be the hard adjustment might be going, okay, toes down for 10 days. What are you? Whoa, what?
Yeah.
Well, not toes down. I mean, doing stuff, but yeah,
Well, I think it's first of all
yeah,
important to point out that generally, like with training, that anyone, guys and girls, like it's normal to do like a 3 to 1 week sort of training cycle. So that means 3 weeks
mm,
of like on training and then one rest week. So essentially, like if a
mm,
woman's cycle is 28 days, it is sort of
mm,
still mimicking that. It's just that your sort of rest day may start on a Wednesday than a Monday, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that it's sort of part of the thing of like, I have to not stop training for like, or decrease my training for like 8 days or 10 days is part of that mentality of like, don't have a rest week, and that's the first sort of like barrier that could sort of like overcome, and but if you're aware that rest weeks are an integral part of training, then sort of switching it up from maybe starting on a Wednesday opposed to a Monday because that's day 20 shouldn't be too much of a sort of change in your sort of run training life. And then
because I definitely, again, going back to me and my crazy sensitive hormones, for me that, and I know we've talked about it in this training up to Taupo, the 70 is like, that's something that I really want to respect the heck out of this time. Not that we didn't last time, but I think there was, because we had a much shorter lead up, so there were some runs where we had to just put in, to get the training done. But because we've got a much longer lead up this time, I think for me that nurture phase, that day 20 to day 1 is super critical, and is actually where I'm going to I'm in my head, I'm thinking possibly get even more advances, even better training gains, if I really, take the time to respect that phase. So, because again, super sensitive. Yeah.
Yeah, I think going forward, like it's almost someone that you've been like training with me for quite a while now, so you have learnt, and I think almost like in that day 20 to day 1, like you almost know better than I do, in terms of like if you're willing to go, so nurturing, and so there's no risk of you like overtraining, right? I think actually I've sort of played around with it, because I think you're on day 17 or so at the moment, and so you're coming up to day 20 in this week, and I've actually prescribed no training, and that you can do what you feel right, and seeing how that goes, because you know you better than I know you, even though I know you quite well. So I think that's a sort of start in, we're so far out from Taupo 70K this year that we've got time to sort of play around with that kind of thing and see how it kind of goes, And
also every month will be different, there'll be some months where it's like, say I had a crazy busy work month, or it's a crazy busy month with the kids, or it's a crazy, you know what I mean? Like those, I guess every month that nurture phase will look different to me, like I might go into it feeling good and feeling like, yeah, cool, I can do, but so just and obviously depending on what sort of training's been going on, and it'll be cool, but it's good to be have that open, having sort of that open planning. Well, have you leaving that planning up to me is awesome. For that phase, I think it's great. And it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out.
It will be. And then like circling back to day 1, so with training to your cycle, how it kind of works is that day 1 is day 1 that you bleed, to day 10 is sort of high energy time, and you've got an increase of estrogen coming into again, and so within terms of training, there's like the grungier workouts, the harder workouts, the longer workouts. You can kind of push the training a bit more. So that's kind of like what we did, and then high aerobic, all that, all the fun sort of like sort of training, so to speak, and then days 11 to 15, we have a big surge of like highest surge of testosterone, as well as the good amounts of estrogen. So this is the time that we are feeling a bit stronger. So therefore that naturally means that more weight training, and still running, but you may do a little bit more weight training at this time to get more of maximum gains from the increase of testosterone. And then days 16 to 19, you kind of go back to sort of like the more aerobic, gruntier training. It is kind of heading towards the back end of your cycle. So like, it's not that your energy may still be the same. It just might not be as high as it was in sort of like day 6, right? Even though you're doing the similar training. You may notice like things like maybe your brain's not working as well, but you're kind of still feeling okay and all that kind of thing. And then in days 20 to day bleed is that nurturing phase. So that may look like for you, it might still mean like the same number of runs. It just might not mean like might mean easy pace runs. It won't mean like go out for 6 hours. It's just shorter sort of mental health runs or no runs, more walks, more yoga, that kind of thing. And then I think also increasing like the Epsom salt bath or like the massage and all that kind of self-love stuff, chilling out, because the progesterone is coming in and that's a calming hormone. Estrogen is going low, testosterone is going down as well. And so that's when it's someone like yourself, pushing the hard training, then trying to function in your day-to-day life, and it's just like really hard. So it's like, what can we change? And that's when the training kind of decreases, and you just kind of allow yourself to rest and recover. And in a broad sense, that's kind of like how it works. And there are other benefits in these phase of your cycles that are outside your running that will just sort of impact your home life, your day-to-day life. Some sort of like in the sort of first half to even like day 16, like you'll probably notice that you're like more outgoing, you want to talk to people, you want to go out, your brain's working really well, you're on fire at work, and you're just like go. And then when you get sort of and your skin may be better, your hair might be better, like all that kind of stuff is kind of like an added bonus. And then as you kind of get in towards your period, I guess, like all that kind of stuff just kind of goes slowly downhill, you
Still degrading.
You're degrading, and then you're you're increasing. It's like it's a cycle. It's a cycle. Everything's on fire. Everything's not.
Until it's not. Until it's not.
But hopefully by training around your cycle, when you're not, you still are, because you're not wearing yourself out, right?
And I can totally attest to it. Like, I can totally attest to that feeling, and it just feels just everything just feels aligned, and just the whole cycle was just not even a chore. Like it would be I got my period. Oh, look, and like it just it happened, and we not this like, oh my God, I'm feeling so anxious, I can't sleep. Don't worry, your period's going to come in a couple of days, you're fine. It's like all of that. None of it was. Everything just was a really nice, super cool flow that just was like, felt really shanty, and and the body felt happy, which was awesome. And like I said earlier, like going out for those training runs and just enjoying every single training event, like in the lead up to Taupo, I honestly, hand on heart, maybe there was one that I went out on. In fact, I pulled out of it. I think it was the only training run I've ever pulled out of, and I pulled out of it. And what had been happening, I can't remember what was happening around that time. But other than that, I mean, I don't even know how many training runs there were in the lead up to Taupo, but other than that, I enjoyed every single one of them and felt, super strong and super pumped to be doing them. Sure, it was awesome.
In terms of training runs,
the recovery felt good too. Sorry.
That's all right. And also, I suppose, to build a picture in terms of your training runs, like you were sort of like a typical like four times a week runner, and then with like sort of and then in the nurturing phase a bit less than that, like that two to three, and even sometimes four. But just like I said, less intensity or length in that run. And I suppose like what is really important to note, like for you, like the increases in what the data said, as well. There was definitely some improvement in your like fitness. For example, like your aerobic pace increased significantly, your tempo pace increased significantly, your 5K, we did a few 5Ks. I did the 5Ks at the same 5Ks at the same time of your cycle, being in the second power phase, so between day 16 and 19, and your 5K time improved from like 28 minutes to 26 minutes, which is a huge increase. And you were just, the vibe that, I was just vibing even through Training Peaks is that you were just loving it, nothing was hard work. You were on fire, really. And, you're coming into your first 50K that you have done. And you had a goal of getting under 7 hours. And we did that. You did that, and you finished strong, and you had a good day out. How was your day out doing Taupo?
Totally. No, and I totally went in we've got that echo back. I totally went in just feeling, I think my dad said to me, "Oh, are you nervous?" And I was like, well, I mean, there was a little bit of apprehension, but I was like, well, I'm prepared. Like I've done the work, so it's like, I mean, I was a little bit like, how's it going to go? But I wasn't. I just felt prepared. I felt totally prepared for it. And also, I think the other thing about that event is in my head, I was like, well, I've done the last 24Ks, so all I got to do is the first 24Ks. I mean, I knew that I obviously had to do the whole thing all together, but I was like, in my head, it was like, right, as soon as I get to Kinloch, I know what the rest of it looks like. So, there was an advantage in that as well. But no, I felt super prepared, and when I hit Kinloch, I think it took me 3:15 to get to Kinloch, and I was still just feeling awesome, just flying, So that was, but previously that had been the longest event run that I would have done before that, and would have been ready to pull up stumps.
Yeah.
But I was, So yes, it was.
And I think a really cool. So the previous year, when none of this was going on, you weren't training on your cycle, and you did the 24K. I think you did it in like 3.5 hours. Just the 24K, and then you basically did the same time this year. And the Taupo 50K, the second 25Ks, 24Ks is the hilliest part of the course, and you did it in pretty much the same time. After running, you already run 25K, so halfway through, and you're able to put out the same output after running 25Ks already. And that sort of speaks volume, I guess, on terms of like where you kind of were in your sort of training and how this had kind of worked, that you're able to sort of run at the same pace.
You get those gains and put it all to work on the day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, certainly felt good. It was good.
Yeah,
it
did work out quite well. I think you were like day 4 or 6, something or other on that.
Yeah,
on that.
Yeah, that, and that's what I think about. And also, like, that's what I did, because I know I'm going to do the Riverhead Rampage, and I was like, just let me check the diary. When is that in my cycle? I may or may not do it.
Yeah,
because that's a grunty one. Yeah, no, but it's good, real good. Yeah, I think it's right in the middle somewhere, so it's perfect. Yeah.
And I think like going forward, like, you know, it's a bit harder, I suppose, you know, and I think, you know, like something like Taupo 70K, like I'm not sure I'm not sure where that is in your cycle, but like
go that far forward. Yeah.
no, but and I think like for someone, you know, as your coach, and if for whatever reason it did fall into you know, that sort of nurturing phase, like there might be some sort of additional things that we may do around it, that so it doesn't mean that you don't do that event, you know. And I think that's kind of like, you know, going extra easy, you know, even before kind of day 20, and trying not to, you know, as much as all this stuff is really important to know, and it's, you know, you can change it when you can change it, but it shouldn't be a barrier as such as like, you know, for a big event, like, oh, I can't do it because I'm day 27, you know.
100%. Yeah.
And I think, and I hopefully, I suppose this is a question I had before and I didn't ask, was that, so you kind of like talked about it, but like previously when you were coming into your period, you were obviously quite, you know, you were quite grumpy and all that kind of stuff. Is that right? You were, what were you?
Just grumpy, just
Yeah.
yeah. Just feeling like lead, you know, body would just feel like lead, just, you know, not sleeping super good, but which is really annoying to me because I am a very good sleeper. So as soon as that started happening, I was like, this is not cool. And then grumpy, and so that whole lead feeling was the thing that really made the training hard, because you would go out and it'd literally be just trying to make this body move that just did not want to move. Did not want to move. Yeah.
And I think, like that's kind of like the whole aim of sort of, you know, to feel that way is not normal, and you know, it's like it's not something you have to put up with. And the whole idea of like sort of doing that extra nurturing exercises, decreasing training, not training, you know, is so that when you go into actually having your period, like, you know, those few days, even though few days before, and then the few days when you do get it, that it's manageable. Like, you know, you don't have the really intense, you know, period cramps and pain, because you haven't like, you haven't stressed out your body like leading into it. You've nurtured your body so that, you know, so to speak, there's just a flow, you know, it just flows. Everything just flows like you kind of talked about afterwards.
100%.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. But I would never, and obviously, like, you know, for me, this doing all this training and this running, like I talked to you about the other day, like for me, it's like, you know, life goals for me, awesome. And then, you know, role modeling for my boys, like, you know, when you're old doesn't mean you stop doing good stuff or fun stuff. And B, chicks can do some good stuff, you know, like even when they're old and they're your mum.
Well,
you know, and look, and look after your body, and you know, set goals for yourself, and blah 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 blah. So so I would never sort of not do an event because it's not the right time of my cycle. maybe into the lead up of a training, and maybe, but not. I wouldn't let it affect a goal. Yeah.
I think that's really important difference.
A goal event. Yeah.
That's really important to know, you know, and I think there is merit in sort of like doing sort of lead up races that, for someone like yourself, that maybe a little bit more planned around your cycle, because there are so many events out there, right? You know, but there's only one A event of the season, right? So, you know, there's no point, you know, lead up races are designed to enhance your training, not to give you a depleted time. Obviously shit happens in races, and you can't, just because you're day 6 it's going to be a great event, you know, it's not guaranteed, but there's a higher chance that it's going to be a better event than if it was like day 23. And it's just kind of like how it just affects, you know, like someone like yourself, someone like me, like, everything that you kind of do affects, maybe not even necessarily like the day, but the day after or the day after that. Like it can kind of come
or
out,
even the 2 weeks.
can come out later in your life as unmanageable.
Yeah. Exactly, which is counter to what we're trying to achieve, right? We're trying to do this good thing, like we said before. It's like trying to do this good thing that's supposed to make us feel good. So let's use all the tools we can to make sure that the good thing we're doing does make us feel good. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. And that's how I look at it, right? That's exactly, I think, what it is in a nutshell, right? It's like, just we've got some tools now to make sure that the good thing we're doing is actually, a good thing. Or feels good, at least. As a good thing that feels good. Yeah.
Yeah, as you said, I remember, as you said, you're a lifer with this, right? I remember you sharing that, which is really cool that you've kind of found this way of life to live, and made a big difference in your life, and it's enabled you to sort of be a better person in all areas of your life, and including in your running. And I think, for you, we've only been, we did it for 3 months leading up to Taupo, and then we kind of had like Christmas holidays, and we kind of like, had a bit of a break from training intensely from each other. And then we've kind of got this, what is the month, March until October. So
8 months, yeah.
8 months?
Do finger counting? April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 7 months.
7 months, this much longer period that, so
more than twice as what we had.
Yeah. So it would just be like super, you were sort of like still sort of developing as an athlete, right? We're always developing as an athlete. The more years that we do it, we get better. It's like, fitness sort of always improves if you train appropriately, and for you, training appropriately looks like training around your cycle. And I've just briefly mentioned that I've started training, just the training aspect around the cycle with other clients, and notice differences with them, even if it's just how they feel in themselves. The difference can be something like significantly like you, or it can just be like a minor sort of difference with other people, just to note like, I'm coming into my period, maybe I should just take it easy. And maybe if I take it easy, then, I'll feel better in myself. And then when it comes to hitting those hard sessions, like I am getting faster, and I am getting stronger, and I am getting fulfillment out of my running, opposed to like, going from like, I have to run because I have to stay in shape. I have to run because I'm a runner. I have to run because, X, Y, and Z, whatever the reason is, it is okay to take rest. As a result of taking rest, you will get faster, you won't gain weight, you will be happier, you will make better food choices, and you will have better sleep, and all that kind of stuff is like really important. As runners, as humans, as women, and I think it's really cool, and it's really good.
Well said. Yeah, well said. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, no, it's cool. Can't wait. Let's go. 70K.
Yeah. Well, maybe
it's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, isn't it? Like we talked about the other day, like, having all this time, more than twice the amount of time, plus, really taking those, like I said to you, I really want to take those nurture phases seriously. Not that we didn't last time, but I think probably for me, it will mean a bit more down tools. And whether that's the whole way through or whether that's just some months or whatever, but I think it's going to be super exciting to circle back and see, where we land, on the other side of it.
Definitely, yeah. I'm super excited too, and maybe we'll catch up, after we'll do another one of these, post Taupo 70K, and just see sort of what happened, and how it all panned out in terms of for you, the training, the fasting, the eating, and Yeah. So that will be exciting.
Totally.
That will be exciting.
Yeah, the learnings and the takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Can't wait.
Cool. I think that's
Awesome.
all. And I was just going to say, we did a write-up about this as well. So if you've enjoyed listening to this podcast and you would also like to give a read of like what happened, maybe have a little bit more look at sort of like the data, if that's what you're into, or if you just like reading instead of listening, we did an article about it, which is on the CMF Running website. The link will be in the description below after the after this. But yeah, thanks heaps for coming along, Nicky. It's awesome seeing you glowing and growing, and that you've, like I said, found this way of life that really works for you. So thanks a lot for coming along.
Thank you, Charlotte. You know that I love you guys. So yeah, if you're not training with Charlotte and you're a chick, do it. You won't regret it. Yeah. Or if you're a guy, but if you're a chick, get on board this. It's really awesome. Yeah. And Charlotte and Chris are great, as most of you already know. Some of you might not. They are. Awesome. Okay. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.